Hey everybody, this is Toby Younis. Welcome to the World Sand Project for Wednesday, March 4th, 2020. We have a very special sample for you today, something that we've not seen before, and I think you're going to like it. Also, we have a guest in the room. Her name is Amy. You'll see her in there chatting, and Amy is in a location that doesn't provide the greatest cell service. So what we decided to do is that she'd come into the chat room, and as you can see, she's already provided a good deal of information. We had talked about this before, but if you have questions about this particular sample, make sure you ask Amy those questions because she is in the chat room. All right? Hey, JK Pioneer. So thanks for joining us today. We got a great sample. We got some giveaways. Our giveaway last week didn't send us his email because we think it's a robo-one. So I'm going to tell you how to win not one, but two prizes today and one next week. So stay tuned. Hey, and again, thanks for joining me today. Let me take care of some housekeeping first.
Housekeeping, you want that?
Make sure before you leave today that you like this video. YouTube likes it when you like our videos. And of course, I like it when you like our videos. And I think some of our viewers like it when you like our videos. So make sure you do that. Share it with your family, your friends, your neighbors, your business associates, the entirety of your social network so that we can grow the channel. And then finally, if you're not already a subscriber, this would be the ideal time to subscribe so that, and when you see the notifications bell, pop on that notifications bell. And that way, every time we start a live stream, you'll be informed and immediately informed and in the know. Let me tell you about our prize selection today, and I'm going to tell you how to win one of those prizes. The first is that we have last week's photograph from Cozumel. Oops, hang on. I left my phone on. Just give me a second. And let me turn. That's my personal phone, not the. While I'm doing that, let me turn on the studio phone. So one of the prizes that we'll be giving away today is this 4x6 dye sublimation print, matted and framed of the sample that we had last week from Cozumel. And then, as I mentioned earlier, one of our giveaways was given to someone who turned out to be a robot. So we have a second giveaway today, and that is the sand pendant from Cozumel. So we'll be giving those away today. If you want to qualify for those giveaways, what I'd like you to do is go to last Wednesday's show and make a comment. That's where I'll be selecting from for each of these prizes. I'm only going to ask that if you already won a prize to let somebody else win it, and you can't win both prizes today. You can win either the image or the pendant. Now, I've exchanged emails with Amy already, and she was wise enough, and I think very wisely so. She said that she wanted the sand pendant from today's show. And as you know, I've always given the provider the sample the opportunity to make a decision whether they wanted the photograph or the pendant. So Amy has selected the pendant, and we'll be sending her that pendant over the weekend. And then last but not least, next week we'll be giving away this photograph from today's show, from today's sample. So this is next week's giveaway. So we have lots of giveaways coming up in the next couple of weeks. So make sure to have a chance at either of those Cozumel works. Go to last week's Cozumel show and make a comment there, and I will select for both of them today. Okay, so there's a chance to win either a 4x6 print original, one of a kind, 1/1, or the pendant, and it too is indeed one of a kind, since it's for the sand from the Cozumel show that we had last week, because Linda Reel, who provided the sample, selected the picture, and I sent that to her over the weekend. So welcome in the room to Amy. And again, for those of you that weren't here early, Amy is the gentle lady that provided today's sample. So if you have any questions, make sure you ask them of her in the room. I see JK Pioneer, T.I. Mattis, Mark Connor, one of our friends, Brian Gates. Brian, by the way, I love that story that you told about taking your wife to dinner with your brother and sister-in-law, I believe, and and how much they enjoyed the pendant that we had sent her. I'm glad that it came out that way. So yeah, the pendant, your pendant, Amy, that you've selected with the black sand is indeed stunning. So you got to choose either the photo or the pendant, so we can give away the other. And let's see. Thank you. Well, it's not hard to do when your composition is the subject under the microscope. So let's go ahead and take a look at what where we're going today. And I'm going to share the screen first. And I did this like I did last week. I'm trying to avoid YouTube popping us off in the middle of the show. So I'm trying to limit the number of Chrome screens that I have open. So we're going to start with the photos from the sample. And by the way, the links to both the photos and the maps that I'll be showing you today are in the description box below. So when you come back here and you want to see these things, just go to the description box and you'll see the links to the photos that I'm about to show you. So let's switch over to the window shot here. And you can see me up in the upper right-hand corner there, and the photos. We're going to start with the location. Oops, these aren't. Let me see. They are a little bit out of order here. Let me put these in order so I don't have to. Oops. Well, that's why. I'm under somebody else. I don't know who that AGK guy is. So this is supposed to go, oh no, that's right, because I'm not going to show this right away. Okay, I put this photo in there for my own purposes because I wanted the geographic coordinates. So here's the traveling that I would do if I was trying to get to this location. Let me give it up as usual. Google Photos doesn't show it right the first time. And we would head from Bernalillo, New Mexico to this location on what I would call the southeastern coast of Iceland. Iceland is a volcanic-based island in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and you can see it. Here's the continental shelf that goes through here around Greenland, and right here is the mid-Atlantic ridge where all that volcanic activity takes place. And as you can see, that mid-Atlantic ridge travels right through Iceland, which and basically it's there only because of volcanic activity. I think I remember reading that there is only one white sand beach in Iceland. The rest are all black sand because of the amount of volcanic activity that produced those black grains, the basaltic grains. So again, it's in the mid-Atlantic along what is referred to as the mid-Atlantic ridge, where all that volcanic activity takes place and where all the beginning of the tectonic plate separating North America from Africa and Europe takes place. A little bit closer, and you'll see that it's not quite in the middle between Greenland and Norway. It does tend towards the cold side even in the summer. My daughter was there recently, and she sent back some really, really great photos from the area. She traveled all around the island. She was there on business. And this area up here is called the Norwegian Sea, down here the Labrador Sea, and then below that the Atlantic Ocean. And as I said, we're on the southeast coast of Iceland. Reykjavik is over here. I think I pointed it out in the next photo. So yeah, Reykjavik, which is the capital of Iceland, is right there. There's a road called Route 1 that goes all the way around the island. And if I remember correctly, it's 352 kilometers from here to there. It's a several hour drive because when you if you decide to go to Iceland, you'll land in Reykjavik and then take transportation from there over. They do offer helicopter transportation from one side of the island to the other, but it gets pretty expensive pretty quick. Because I can, yes. So, I didn't bring him in. I wanted everybody to know that I've received several samples of sand from Violet Mercury, Linda Teal. I wrote them down and I didn't bring my notebook in with me. So I have four samples, because my daughter sent me two, one from France and one from Spain. So I have 5 samples for the next 5 Wednesdays from various folks. And then I did get your message about the Mississippi sand, Brian, and I will respond to it via email after this evening, okay? Lisa Smith's in the room. Corey J's in the room. Let me see. Debbie Teal. Debbie, I want you to know, not only I got 2 packages from you, one for the treasure chest on AGK and one with your sand sample. So let me see. So yeah, Amy, my daughter travels for business, and she travels literally all over the world with the business. She works. Her name is Toby Renee, and she works for a company called Toby Pro. It's spelled Tobii. It's a Swedish company, so she gets to do a lot of traveling. Now you can see this is not snow on top of these mountains. These are actually glaciers, and the glaciers go all the way down to the sea. And one of the things that Iceland is known for is its glaciers. Now, if this picture were taken during the winter months, it would be pretty much all covered in snow. And the people live very comfortably with that. They're a very good people. They do love their partying. I've been there a couple of times, and they like to party because apparently there's not a lot of, I remember being there for, every once in a while they have not every once in a while, annual ice carving competition, but they also have an ice hotel. So it's an interesting place to be. I didn't stay there, but so this is our location down here. Now, what's cool about this location, and the reason they call it Diamond Beach, is that this area, this is a lagoon called the Jökulsárlón, and I'm probably pronouncing it incorrectly, but that's as close as I could get. Jökulsárlón Lagoon. And what happens is ice blocks break off this glacier, and they float into the lagoon. And then once they float into the ice lagoon, and that's what it's called, they float through this little outlet, because that's what it does, out into the sea. And then these ice blocks, and you can see they already look like little crystal diamonds on the ice lagoon. So they flow through this little inlet/outlet out on into the ocean, and then the ocean waves wash them back onto the shore. So when we look at pictures, once I go to this section, we're going to see some pictures. And then what happens is people take pictures of them. They're like, some of them are crystal clear. And what happens is people will come and carve shapes into them, like artists will come and carve shapes. And of course, you're carving into something that is either going to wash away by the waves, oceanic waves, in this case, the sea waves, or just melt. So, but they carve imagery into them. So it's pretty cool. So this is our friend Amy. You'll see her in the chat room as Amy Seeks. And Amy was very kind to, she took this sample with her. She collected it on Diamond Beach, and apparently while she was there took the time to draw that little happy face, and collected it on Diamond Beach, took some pictures, and brought it to her when I went to brought it with her to give to me when we were in Las Vegas at the World Series of Fens. So I thought that was very kind and very thoughtful of her. She said she took several other pictures, but hasn't gotten them out of her hard drive. And I don't remember. It wasn't this year that she's been there. I guess we can have her. Amy, what? Let's see. Amy, what year did you actually collect this sample? And then that's kind of the reverse with her back to the ocean, to the sea, and looking inland towards these kind of sand-bearing structures, and then back into the mountains, and then down to the glacier. The lagoon would be, I think, over on this side here. So that's why they call it, well, let me show you why they call it Diamond Beach. But I'm going to show you the sample first, and then we'll actually, let's look at the maps, and then we'll come back to the pictures. So you can find the maps at bit.ly/WSP for Well Sand Project sample number 0030 maps. So let's go straight. Oh, I just typed that incorrectly. That's, oh, all right. That's not how you spell bit.ly. bit.ly. There we go. World Sand Project 0030 maps, and that link is in the description box below. So this is the image that I showed you before, with a little bit of close-up. So there's the lagoon, and so one of these pictures, the rightmost of the pictures, was taken later at night, so it's darker. It corrects itself when I kind of zoom in a little bit closer, and so the ice blocks come out feed out through the inlet onto the sea, and then are washed back onto shore. And that's why they call it Diamond Beach, in case you wonder why they call it Black Beach. Diamond Beach. That's why, because they show up on the beach. And what I'm going to try and do is get our little guy to a place where we can see some of these. And I think it was right here. I looked at some of them. There we go. So this is how the blocks look as they wash back up. And you can see some of them are very, very crystal clear. And I didn't see any carvings in any of them. Those bus or tour buses that come all the way from Reykjavik, but they wash back up. And because some of them are crystal clear, they call it Diamond Beach. And people carve into these ice objects to give them a good look. There was one other, and if you get up into these maps, as you drag the little yellow guy, I'm going to put him out into the middle of the ocean here and see what happens, because it's a face back. So they were on the beach when the tide was out, and again, this shows more of the ice blocks, or diamonds as they call them, and that's where this beach gets its name. Now, there are several other black beaches because of the amount of basalt that's there, but most of them are not sandy. They're pebble sized. The sand hasn't, the basalt hasn't broken down enough to turn it into sand. So make sure you go back to this imagery. This is a really pretty picture during the frozen year, during the time when it's frozen. Go back, as I said, these images are the link to these mapping images are in the description box below. And then as you get progressively closer to the area, as you go to, for example, 3D and get the angle on it, and then grab the little yellow guy. I'm sure there's a name for this guy. But there is a street view right here that's on the road on Route 1. And then as you get closer to the beach, there are several locations on the beach in which people have left 3D photographs, right? So here's one. See, that's one of those more clear crystal blocks that this guy's taking a shot of. So they're very dynamic. And let's see if can we get an overhead out of this? Maybe. No. Very dynamic stuff, and that's why they call it Diamond Beach. They look like little tiny diamonds scattered all over. So it's a very interesting place. If you've never been to Iceland, it's not a hard trip out of the East Coast. I mean, when you're traveling from Bernalillo, it's a little bit more expensive. But when we were in Washington, when I was living in Washington, it was a popular trip for salespeople to take, a long weekend kind of thing. I'm telling you, it was just a party. I could tell you some stories, but I won't bore you to death. So let's take a look at the sample. The sample that Amy sent us is somewhere between a fine sand, meaning 1/8 to 1/4 of a millimeter, to up to a medium sand, and it was pretty what I'd call sub-rounded. It had smoothed out. Now you got to remember, because Iceland was formed as a result of volcanic activity, and they still experience it. Was just a couple of years ago where one of the volcanoes exploded and was creating the kind of smoke plume, volcanic plume that was affecting air traffic, et cetera, et cetera. So they still do have volcanic activity on the island, but it's somewhere between a fine and medium grain and what I'd call sub-rounded, and it's all basalt. It's all black basalt, some obsidian. You'll see some of the more shiny stones, especially in the photograph that I took. There's shiny material in there because there's going to be some obsidian mixed in with that flat basalt look. So it has a very nice polished look to it, as you'll see when we look at the microscope, under the microscope. So I wasn't able to fill a large sample bottle with what Amy sent me. When I add what I've got under the microscope back in, it'll fill the sample bottle, and I wanted to make sure we had some for her pendant as well. One of the things that's common with basaltic activity and basaltic sands is that they carry a lot of magnetite. And so this was a very densely magnetic sample. It actually, if I had shot it from the side, it actually formed a hemisphere. And when I dipped the magnet into the crucible to draw it, you could actually see, how when you have iron shavings, and you put a magnet to them, you can actually see them move towards towards the magnet. That's how this sample of magnetite was in this black sand. It was very active, filled with magnetite, which is not unusual for a basaltic sample. And it was so densely magnetic that not only was it attracted to the magnet, but it was each of the little magnetic stones, magnetite, were picking up more magnetite. So it formed kind of a hemisphere on top of the magnet. That's how dense it was. So a lot of magnetic stuff. But again, you will see that in samples that are basaltic in nature rather than igneous or sedimentary. So I took a close-up of the Pendant. Unfortunately, it looks like it's a little bit out of focus. It was focused on the background rather than the pendant, but it makes for a very beautiful pendant, somebody to talk to. And I thought my favorite colors, as Shelley has probably told you, are red and black. So I picked the one with the ruby for the World Sand Project Pendant Attaché, as we like to call it. So this is the sample at wide angle, and the shiny stuff is more likely the obsidian. There is some quartz-looking material, but there's a very good chance. So one of the things that happens when there's volcanic activity is it's not only shooting up lava that's with a basalt and containing other material, but there's a core underneath there, and that's where diamonds and other gemstones come from. So there's some material in here that if I had to, I would bet, for example, right here, we're going to look at a little bit closer, I would bet they're more gemstone material than they are quartz because they don't have the same fracture, that conchoidal fracture that quartz has. This shiny material is more likely obsidian because that is mixed in with the basalt. The dull material, the one that doesn't have any shininess to it, is the basalt material, and you'll see the various other minerals blended in with it. That brownish or that goldish color are simply other minerals. Now, I did see a couple of samples of other minerals mixed in with the obsidian, but this shiny stuff that you see right here is obsidian rather than a basalt. And then there are some other rocks in there, including this yellow feldspar look, but that's more serendipitous. The majority of the material is going to be basalt. Here's another picture. This is the one that I selected for the photograph, and the reason is right in the middle there is, and I don't believe because it's rounded. I don't believe it's quartz. Because it has that rounded, so it's probably some sort of gemstone, and it can range all the way from, citrine and citrine all the way up through diamonds, because you could find diamonds coming up with the lava onto the surface, with the magma coming up onto the surface and cooling into lava. But yeah, it's very likely the shiny stuff is obsidian and the dull stuff is basalt. And you can see the basalt still kind of a conglomerate containing other minerals in it, but you'll see this doesn't look like other quartz that I've seen. And I know, for example, there are a lot of places in both Iceland and Greenland where you can stake a claim, not to search for gold, but to search for gemstones. So it might not be unusual that we see some of these miniature gemstones. I wonder if that's one. Is that the one? This is the one that I selected. I'm sorry, because it had the two gemstone quality things, and they could be quartz. I mean, I just don't expect to see quartz mixed in with this much basalt. So I'd expect to see gemstones mixed in. And then you see this angular material that has a gemstone quality to it when you see that it has the pyramid shape on the top and the bottom. So that's likely a mineral more gemstone-like than just the basalt. You can see for the most part the basalt is what I'd call sub-rounded. It's lost a lot of its angularity, but it hasn't traveled very far. It comes from the glacier. The glacier is doing some kind of, has corrosiveness against it, and it's reducing it and smoothing it out. But then it goes out into the lagoon. The lagoon, it's got to travel all the way from those mountains that we saw in the photograph, all the way out through the lagoon in through the inlet or outlet, depending, into the ocean, and then washed up on shore. So it's pretty round for that, but that little trip could have taken millions of years. to get to this point where it's back on shore. So I'm not looking at the chat room right now, but I will go back. If you have any questions, please precede, so I don't miss them, please precede them with an @ World Sand Project so I can see that you're asking a question. Otherwise, Amy's in the room and she could probably answer some of these questions. So, so that's what it looks like photographically. And as I said, this is the photograph that I selected for the picture that we'll give away next week. Let's take a look at all of this under the microscope for a couple of minutes before we start doing giveaways. Now, if you want to win one of the giveaways that came from last week, and both are available, both the image and the pendant from the Cozumel sample are available, and that's because why do we have these both available? What did Linda want? Linda wanted a picture, but she didn't send the Cozumel sample. Am I missing a sample here? Let me see. Why am I confused? Hang on. Let me make sure real quick that I'm giving you the right thing. So I'm going to go back to full frame. Let me make sure I'm giving you the right video to go to so that I don't confuse the issue of where to go and comment. So there's my videos. We're live now. That is 29. So I'm sorry. Linda wanted the photograph, so I was incorrect. I'm not sure why I still have this picture. Why do I have this picture? All right. Anyway, the place that you want to go to make a comment in order to win either the pendant or the picture. Why do I have the picture from the Zona? Oh, because Brian chose it. That's why. Okay, so that's why we're doing it. Okay, so I have two giveaways, but you have to go make a comment on sample number 28, Baldwin Beach Park, Paia, Maui. And the reason I have one left over is this is what I was supposed to give away last Wednesday, but the guy didn't. It was that robot, that bot. So this is the one from Cozumel that we didn't give away. The pendant that we're giving away is from Paia Beach, Baldwin Beach in Paia, Maui. And that was because Linda selected the photograph. Okay, so go back to World Sand Project sample number 28, make a comment there, and then we'll give this away at the end of the show. All right? So, oh, I should wait. I did that without doing the window shot. Okay. All right. So the place that you want to make a comment is this video here. World Sand Project sample number 28, Baldwin Beach Park, Paia, Maui. And the sand in the pendant is the one that we're giving away today is from Maui. The photograph is from Cozumel, but we're going to give them both away today because the person that won the photograph from last week was a bot and didn't send us a shipping address. So we have two things to give away. All right. And then next week, you can make a comment on this video once it's processed, because next week we'll be giving Amy has already chosen the pendant, so we'll be giving away the photograph from the Black Sand Beach next week. I hope that's not confusing. And I'll remind you then. Right now, go and make a comment on World Sand Project sample number 28, Baldwin Beach, okay? And that way you have a chance of winning that picture next week. Ugh, I'm just being confusing now. Go make a comment on last Wednesday's video, because I'm going to give away stuff at the end of today's show. I hope that wasn't as confusing as I made it. All right, so what else do I want to do before we go on to that? Let me go back to full frame and then go to the microscope. And this didn't respond well to the polarizing microscope, I think because it's real dark and it got kind of blue. It's very black, and I don't have a lot of control over white balance on the stereo camera, the camera that's on any of these, none of the microscope cameras. The other thing is, I've told you before, it's always amazing to look at this material under the stereo microscope, because this picture, I can assure you, does not do it justice. But you can see it is pretty dark. Let me see if I can get it So yeah, I'm already down where if I go next, it's going to go green. That's about as dark as I am going to get it. So right there, as black as I'm going to get it, as opposed to that kind of bluish black. It really is black when you look at it under the light, but not under the microscope. So let's zoom in a little bit and take a look around this sample. And I'm going to have to keep adjusting the light because the black isn't as cooperative as when you're looking at a white sand. Light colored sand. It absorbs the light. The black absorbs the light rather than reflects it back. And again, the dark material that's kind of flat in color is basalt, and then the shinier color is obsidian. And you can see the different kind of breakage that you get. The obsidian will break like glass or like quartz, where it's more conchoidal, and and the basalt will break like a rock. It'll fracture without giving any indication of what exactly it's doing. So let's take a look around, see if we can find any of those gemstones that I saw earlier. So right there, you can see something that's a little bit gemmy in the sense that it is translucent and it's got color to it other than the black basalt. So the red lines you see there are not part of, most of the rocks have some of that brownish gold material in it. The red lines are just the camera's inability to collect that color correctly. It's coming right off the camera. So again, another gemstone. And like I said, when I put this under the microscope, I'm sorry, the polarizing microscope, the black reflected back nothing. So I'm going to zoom back out to see if I saw one of those gemstones in here earlier. So let me see if I can locate it just by scrolling across real quickly. And you do see some other material in it. You'll see some biogenics that came along with the sea. The sea is at a constant temperature for this kind of material, and there will be some biogenics in it washed ashore, just like any other beach. But mostly it's just that combination, the shiny, the dull basalt and the shiny obsidian in there. But I could have sworn I saw, is that it right there? So that's what happens between, so I always do these the night before. Okay, so here's the two that I saw. So this one is got a clear, a transparent, translucent look to it. Let's zoom in on it just a little bit more. And so it's almost like ice with that conchoidal fracture. So that's quartz, and it would be unusual to find quartz in this basalt. So it could be gemstone. But as you might have noticed, right below it, there's a couple of red tinted that have a more rounded shape to them right there. And those are probably garnets. Because you can find garnets in basalt. It is not unusual to find them. So I'm gonna swap over to a Petri dish, and the reason is the Petri dish has a kind of a single layer effect. The quartz crucible, because I pour a tiny spoonful into it, is not quite. It has layers on it. When I put it on a Petri dish, it's closer to the glass. So let's see if we can find something in this. You can see right through the layer of sand to the glass in the Petri dish. Now, this Petri dish, of course, is made with the same stuff that, what's the name of that company? The company that makes cookware. So it's very stable, and you can cook in it, not cook, you can heat it, you can cool it. I was hoping to see some of the more gemmy kind of material in here, but nah, it's mostly, like I said, the basalt and the obsidian. And then right there, that white thing that you see there is likely a biogenic because it has those features associated with it. So it's a very unique and in its own way, even though it's mostly black, uh, uh, beautiful sample. I'm very grateful to Amy having not only collected the sample, but having the foresight to bring it with her to our meet in Las Vegas and give us the opportunity to look at this in case none of us ever actually get to this particular beach. Like I said, I have been to Iceland before, but I had never been to this beach, so it's kind of a unique addition to our collection of samples. So zoom in way, way in before we get out of here. I'm probably going to have to adjust the light because the black as a color, or absence of color in this case, absorbs a lot of the light. So, and what I'm using an LED ring light. The light is right around the bottom of the lens, the objective lens, and it has 144 LEDs in it. And so it gives me a good even lighting for the sample. So there's some of the shiny obsidian. There's one of your gemstones, likely a garnet. When it's that color, it's translucent, as you can see, and it wouldn't be unusual to be moved around with this basalt. And so it's got some good sample. And then this is the more traditional basalt, and the basalt is flat. It was at one time magma and then cooled into lava, and then through weathering and mass wasting started breaking up into smaller and smaller pieces. And you can see through additional weathering, through additional traffic, as it goes through the process of being washed on and off shore, some more of that material will break up, and eventually those pieces that you see inside of the basalt will not only become sand, they'll get small enough so that they turn into silt. Here's the one that I'm pretty confident that, let's get it focused, that it's translucent, you can't see it as good, that it's more likely a diamond of a gemstone than it is quartz, just because of the roundedness and the fracture and the fact that it's in a basaltic sample, because you're more likely to find diamonds in a basaltic sample than you are quartz. So as also you can see with this, with the obsidian, the shiny stuff, there's additional minerals in there, and some of them can be metallic minerals. I'm not gonna say they're gold or silver or anything. I don't think that's possible when it comes to basalt, but they do have a metallic sheen to them, and they look like, and unfortunately, as I've said dozens of times in the past, they we're talking about grains of sand, and in this case, grains of sand that are 1/8 to 1/4 of a millimeter in size. So, as much as we would like to be able to pick all those diamonds out of there, we just can't, unfortunately. I wish we could. So let me close this window. I'm going to go back to the World Sand Project. So let's see. What are we going to give away first? So, all right, this is the pendant containing sand. Let me go to full screen so you can see it. And you should have made a comment now on this video, World Sand Project sample number 28, Baldwin Beach. All right. And Brian Gates, he's the one that sent me the Cozumel sample. He told me about taking his, I think I said this, took his wife out to dinner, and the pendant that she was wearing that he decided upon was the topic of conversation that night. So let me just show you one more time what I'm going to give away right now. This sand pendant from Paia Beach, or Baldwin Beach in Paia, Maui, Hawaii. Okay? And it has the World Sand Project, I don't know what they call these, medallion on it, stamped with WSP on it. And this one has a, let me see the stone. So this one has a kind of pinkish stone with it, which is kind of appropriate. Okay, so let's give that baby away right now. I'm going to go back to window shot. We'll open up this and grab the link address, and then we'll go to comment, because we're going to come back here to give away the image, the picture. Commentpicker.com. You should have put your name in there now. I'm going to put the link in, Oops, nope. That's Facebook. We gotta get the YouTube tools. YouTube random comment picker. So we'll put that link in there. It'll count the number of people that made comments, and the number is 16. So let's pick one of you to win this. Now, by the way, if you make additional comments, it only takes your first one. It takes one and then ignores the rest. So it doesn't make any difference. As long as you comment once, you don't have to comment more than that. So let's see who's going to win this one. Let's see. Another winner. Oh my God, Mel has won 3 things. So I'm going to take Mel's name. I'm going to give another way. Mel has literally won a prize on every one of our shows on AGK, and he's won a couple, the softer side. And so I'm going to pick another winner. All right, somebody that hasn't already won. Because Mel must be the most luckiest person in the world. He just keeps winning stuff. Tammy Mattis. I think Tammy has won, right? Tammy, was it you that won or was it your sister? See if you can. I guess it's hard when we have the same 16 people commenting. I think Tammy has already won. Let me see. Tammy, are you still in the room? Let's see. All the Norths have iron. Brian Gates says, yeah. Okay. So, Sana Negra, I actually have 2 options on the polarizing microscope. One is the overhead. I have a light that the polarizing light goes through the objective lens. The normal light goes from below the sample. So I just couldn't do it. I think Tammy has already won. Oh, Cindy won. Okay, Tammy. Then Tammy. So Tammy Mattis. Tammy, you win the Maui pendant. So make sure that you send your shipping address to worldsandproject@gmail.com. So now we have another drawing, same last week's show. So that doesn't change, and we have to pick another winner. And this is for the photograph of Cozumel, because Brian, who's in the room today, Brian selected the pendant, and he gave that to his wife, which was a very gentlemanly thing to do, I thought. So we're going to do the picture of that. So it's the same YouTube URL, and we'll pick another winner. And the only thing is, if you've already won, I'll keep picking until we get to somebody that hasn't won. All right? So let's pick another winner. Tammy wins the pendant. Let's see who comes up this time. Debbie Teal. I think Debbie's won. Debbie has already won. Or was that Deborah Jensen? Oh my gosh. Debbie Teal. Hold on. Okay, so just give me a second. I've got to go back to my full frame because I have to go to. Oh, I didn't do it. You didn't see it anyway. Okay, so I did a drawing. Debbie Teal came up, and I think Debbie's already won, but I've got to look at my shipping thing to see if that's true. So just give me 1 second here. I don't want you to see everybody's address. So let me just look at my shipping. Give me 1 second. We got to start getting ready for the next show here. So I think Debbie has won as well. So we'll have to pick another one. So I know Deborah Jensen has won. I kind of think Debbie Teal, but it could be just that Debbie has sent us a sand sample, and she's sent us a package that's going to go in our treasure chest with AGK. So let me look at my shipping history here just to make sure. And I could be confusing her with Linda Reel. I think she was one of the early ones. Cindy. Yeah, she has won. Yeah. So she's already won. All right. So I'm going to take you back to random comment picker. See, this is a problem when we only have as many as do. We're going to go back to window shot. And again, this is for the Cozumel photo. We'll try to pick another winner who hasn't already won. All right. Let's try. I'll try it again. And if we don't have a winner, we'll have to. Oscar Rodriguez has already won. Okay, pick another winner. Oscar won last week. Tony Henman. Tony has not won a prize. So for those of you that aren't aware, Tony is the gentleman that gave me all those stones, not only to give away on our show, but to take with me to the World Series of Fen, where Christy, who's in the room, gave them away. So we'll send that to Tony Henman. Let me make a quick note here, so I don't send another present to Cindy, the two sisters. So the pendant goes to Tammy. And the photo goes to Tony Henman. Now, if you watch the softer side at 4 o'clock, we do have a tanzanite crystal that we're giving away on the softer side. And then tonight, on tonight's AGK, we have a photograph that I posted in the community page. It's a photograph of the Magical Treasure Princess sitting next to Forrest Fenn when we visited him back in January of 2017. So congratulations to Tammy for her pendant win. Congratulations to Tony for his photo win. Congratulations to Amy because she selected, wisely I thought, because it makes such a beautiful pendant. Should be a real conversation starter. So she selected the black sand pendant, and that means next week we'll be giving away the black sand photograph. All right? So it's a really pretty one, and there's that diamond that I saw earlier included in this particular photograph. So, guys, thanks for joining me today. Let me get my intro started. Thanks for joining me today. Shelley, I guess I should let you guys know, Shelley and I decided that we're so busy, not only is she busy with her projects, but we're so busy with the Sales Leaders Institute that she needs the time to work on that. So she won't be joining me on the World Sand Project from this point forward. And we'll be kind of transitioning into the Sales Leaders Institute. So we both decided that was the best thing to do just to get her that time back. So I'll miss her. I'm sure you will, but we'll see her here at 4 o'clock on the softer side. And then, of course, she'll join me tonight on A Gypsy's Kiss. So I hope you stop by to visit us then so you can say hi to Shelley. And let's see, what else? Brian... finally, Amy, thank you very much for the sample. It was a beautiful sample, not only in terms of showing it, but it made great photographs. The guys over at the Geology Reddit and the Rockhounds Reddit just love this particular photograph. And then congratulations on the winning of that pendant. I will put all these, of course, in the mailbox this weekend. Okay? So thanks for joining me, guys. We'll see you in a little bit if you go to the softer side.